and the Guilty is recorded live with the men and women of law enforcement. All suspects are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Now, here's your host, Iredell County Sheriff Darren Campbell.
Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you?
Well, thanks to everybody today joining us on The Good, the Bad, and the Guilty. I'm Darren Campbell, along with Chief Bill Hamby.
Well, thank you for making me a chief. I got demoted to captain last night, sir.
That was an accident.
It happens from time to time.
Okay, before Todd, I ain't even introduced you. You couldn't quit talking. So we're going to have fun today.
I hope so.
And I'll go ahead, even before you do our sponsor, and we want to brag on them a little bit. But beforehand, you're going to see, sitting to Bill's left, is current Representative Todd Carver. And Todd, you're in the 95th?
95th House
I think I remember.
Yep.
Which is Mooresville. And so you've been there now for about a year and a half?
We got sworn in January.
And I'm sure that's one of the best financial decisions you ever made in your life.
Hands down. It's really a win, I'm telling you. It's hard to say that with a straight face. It is giving back. It is community
a lot of
service.
people don't understand it, and that really wasn't what we was going. We will get into that in just a little bit. But Todd, give a little background. Todd is, well, Bill, you as well. We have worked with Todd forever. Todd was originally with Mooresville. He's got 30 years in law enforcement, prior military. You in the military. So, and now you was the BLET guy, which is basic law enforcement training at Mitchell Community College. You're big into instructing and teaching the decades of law enforcement now that's behind you. But 30 years of law enforcement, now currently serving in our North Carolina House of Representatives.
An honor.
So, but before we get into bragging on Todd and having fun, I think today's going to be fun because we've all worked together.
Yeah, it was, Sheriff. But right before you came, Representative Carver and I walked in the door, introduced him to Joe, and I said, Joe, it's not very often that I have two past bosses. You, because you were major at the time.
Yeah.
And then I worked for you, and then I worked for Major Carver when I went over to crime prevention and community outreach. So sitting here,
I didn't know you did that. I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So so it's nice to have my current boss and my former boss here today. So you're right.
But there's not going to be no storytelling here much today. We ain't go. No, Todd. And I should refer to him as representative, but we knew each other too long. But one thing I did forget before we get sponsored, you can follow us on X, WSIC app, Facebook. We're watching the comments. YouTube and LinkedIn, and I'm sure there's a bunch on the FM dial. Spin it, and you'll find us.
Spin it.
My neighbor Jim listens every day. So hey,
Really?
Jim,
We'll give a shout out to Jim.
How you doing, Jim?
And we appreciate it.
Appreciate you, buddy.
So at least we know we got one listener.
I know you got one because he tells me about it.
Makes it worth all the while. And then you got Joe over here. Oh,
Yeah,
Joe
we got
says
two.
two. You got Joe because he has to listen to us with him earphones. How are you, Joe?
He's good.
He's
No mic. Okay, he's waving at us, folks.
That's not a bad thing. But I will say, Joe, talking about two listeners that we got now. Now, Joe, you can just nod your head, or we'll say what we want to anyway. But I got an email from your nice company a while back, and so far about the last month, 6 months, whatever, we've been one of the top-rated shows. So we appreciate everybody that listens and watches our views and comments.
Well, you guys do a great job. Very
thank
well
you.
Deserved.
Thank you. I know. I don't have nothing mean to say now. So, Bill.
Yes.
We got to brag on Harrison's a little bit.
Because we are one of the top rated shows according to their numbers. Our sponsors, Harrison's, is probably one of the top rated companies. So I would like to read their intro. From the job site to the rodeo to the backyard hammock, Harrison's has you covered. And I will say, Joe, what did you do? Joe. Representatives from Harrison's, Todd, we're actually at the office today talking to Sheriff Campbell, going over some uniform options and some other things.
Yes.
So they it's not just lip service that we give them. They actually are great community sponsors, and they do work with us. So Harrison's does have you covered. They're the Southeast leader in Carhartt and Ariat workwear, and nobody stocks more in work boots. I know they have some beautiful stuff down there. They can get you ready to go boot scooting. You go boot scooting, right? How about loafer shuffling?
I'm more of just a shuffle kind of guy.
More just a shuffle.
He's more of an Andy Griffith boogieing kind of
there
guy.
You go. Western favorites from Cinch, Rock and Roll, Denim, and Wrangler. Visit their Mooresville location or shop online at harrisonsusa.com. Harrison's, for home, for work, Western, and wow.
Down there across from Walmart.
They've
been a good company for a long time.
And it's not just because they sponsored the show. I mean, they obviously, gosh, my family, we shopped there for
years.
Yeah, years, because they got some cool stuff. And I'm
used
not
to have to
just
ride all the way to Hickory to get their stuff.
That's right.
And,
That's right.
You know, now it's nice to be able just to go right there in Mooresville.
And
be
very
able to get that.
supportive of law enforcement. And, you know, I wonder if they're listening. But, you know, that I do notice they've got a race car, and they could put the good, the bad, and guilty on one side of it.
On a quarter
Joe,
panel.
who do we talk to
Yeah,
make
Joe,
that
and
happen?
we need to get a quarter panel.
We're looking for a quarter panel.
Or at least a sticker on a helmet.
They probably don't understand we're not going to support that show anymore.
Because I do know that going back to when you were there, sir, and I will not say which driver, but we did help recover some stolen property for a current NASCAR driver, and somewhat half jokingly, I remember when Sheriff Campbell was running, he's like, "Hey, can I get a sticker on your helmet and maybe get some TV time?" What was it?
He was like-
25,000, 50,000 for a helmet sticker?
You know what? We just said it wasn't going to be no talk story.
It was just a joke.
It was like,
Yeah.
he goes, well, you got this one spot right here where the camera hit it when they do the in-car stuff. And I was like, okay, well, I was actually looking just for an in-kind contribution.
Sure.
Like $35,000. I was like, I think I might.
Yeah, I knew that was some
Never
kind of
mind.
crazy
I
number.
appreciate the thought. And I said, well, what if you don't know it? And he goes, I promise you somebody will know it.
Oh, absolutely.
So.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for Harrison's. And
Yep,
sponsoring.
absolutely. Harrison's been great.
So, Todd, getting back to you now, you see this little thing in front of you. We got about 2 minutes to our first break, so I know we've sort of cut up here a little bit, but if you want to tell them a little bit about yourself in your own words.
Just really quick, you know, I grew up in Mooresville there my whole life, except for when I was gone in the service. You know, started out at the police department, and then Sheriff Redmond was giving me the privilege to come work at the sheriff's office, and then you kept me on. I helped you through the campaign, and enjoyed that and learned a lot through that process. And then, you know, after retirement, I'd always said that I wanted to run for that House seat down in Mooresville.
You'd always said that.
Just because it's really just my hometown, you know, and I felt like that would be something, just an honor to be able to serve. And when Gray wasn't going to run again for the North Carolina House seat, was running for the U.S. Congress seat, was really honored to be able to step up and be able to throw my name in that hat. And I enjoy my service back to the people of Mooresville. Raleigh is a challenge. Let me tell you, that's a crazy place.
That's what I was going to say. Is it what you thought it was going to
It
be?
is crazier than I thought it would be by a good bit. And it just seeing how the old saying, you know, seeing how the sausage is made, make you not want to eat it. And I can appreciate that a little bit better now.
Well, you know my daughters, and you know Addison's down there, so I appreciate you and the speaker pro team because Mitchell keeping check on her, and
We
she
try our
enjoys
best
it.
to look after her. She's good people.
She's ready to come back. She's ready to get back for this, I guess, fall. I guess whenever y'all get back, it'll be fall. She'll be back.
Right now we're still in session. We're going to be back at least 3 days a month, probably through the end of the year.
Well, when we come back from break, we want to hear all good secret squirrel stuff that we don't know about how this sausage is made, if you can. So
And the
tell you-
spices.
I can
Tell
tell
us
you a little
about
bit
the
about where we're
spices.
at.
where we at? All right, we'll take a break, and we're going to be back, Bill, in about probably 2.5 minutes. Y'all
Sounds good.
send us a message on Facebook, comment on Todd or anything you want to, or suggestions, and we'll be back and see you shortly.
Absolutely. Thank you for listening. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in today to The Good, the Bad, and the Guilty. It's going to be a good day here, good show. Joe, thank you for playing my music. I appreciate that. I call that my Alfred Hitchcock music.
Is that what that is?
That's, you think of that. Little stuff could happen with that kind of music. So.
And Bill, I do think, and normally I would not do this, but I will say this. Everybody, if you have our app, which obviously I encourage you to download the Iredell County Sheriff's Office app, because in a situation like this, but we sent out an alert about, excuse me, probably about 20 minutes ago. It was about a missing 14-year-old. So everybody shared us, but we're going to update the post. But sadly, he was discovered in the lake by our lake patrol units and our underwater submersible. So thoughts and prayers to that family.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Quick response, I think probably within 30 minutes, but sadly it was a little bit too late. So because everybody's pinging the phone, so just we're here live, so we just want to go ahead and say it. Sad.
Yeah, it's a very sad situation. Just one of those, just reinforces that, make sure you keep an eye on your young people and everybody anytime they're in and around the water. Just be safe.
And I will say this, as far as the app, we said it, this is one of the ones, we don't alert it a lot, but in an emergency situation just like this, we had a missing 14-year-old, we knew there were some issues, and to put it out, Channel 9 picked it up, they called us, and I'll go ahead and if they're listening, or they will, they offered services of a helicopter, and of course we've got drones, so.
Yep, they were coming.
But sad outcome, but a quick outcome, and Todd, that sort of brings me into a little bit here, the tool that we used was actually the drone was one of them, which
that underwater drone.
But we used a visual drone, but then the underwater drone was actually able to find a target on a sonar, go down and make the identification and recover. I don't know where they're at in the recovery process, but that is a tool that we use here on Lake Norman for it's sad in this situation, but it saves saves family a lot of suffering not knowing.
Right. Well, and like you said, my heart goes out to the family. I mean, I just can't imagine something like that, having to deal with that situation. Back when I was doing lake patrol, and
that's right, you did lake patrol.
It would have been hours and hours, and just the anguish that people are going through. It's like you said, at least you can get it resolved quickly.
We made the decision that a lot of people say, well, submarine, it's not. It's an underwater or a remotely operated vehicle that's tethered, but we made the decision to do that when the fireman drowned about 5 years ago.
Bradley.
That's right. And trying to recover a deceased body for the family. And he himself ended up drowning. I said, never again, if we have something to do with it, we'll have an underwater capability to do those recoveries.
And that's where having the resources ahead of time, thinking ahead, what you're going to need to get things done and to provide those services. That experience of being able to say, hey, this is what we're going to need in that situation, and be able to have it.
A lot of
call
people,
on the resource. Yeah,
you think different parts of the county have different events and things, but the lake is one of the largest, precincts. If you look at communities, and the people on that lake is on. And I was out there yesterday. I was on the boat yesterday, and yesterday's pretty good on the water. Wasn't a lot of people out, even though as hot as it was. But the amount of traffic and people that's not familiar with boating laws, the area that come down there, our lake patrol, I know a lot of people say, well, the boat uses gas. Well, it does, but I've got to provide that service.
Patrol cars do too.
Well, in this case, lake patrol was on scene within minutes. They were already on the water searching the area, and apparently probably this drowning happened before we ever received the call. But the fact that they're there and able to have the assets to deploy to make a fast recovery or a save, because just the other weekend, Todd, you may not know about this, I think they had
the boat was sinking.
The boat was sinking, had
12
individuals on a boat, and we was able to recover everybody.
Yep.
From ages 13 to like 40. I can't remember. We didn't post it, but to have them real time out there. And one of those lake patrol boats, in addition to this, the Vicky Sawyer, Gray Mills, Mitchell Setzer, Jeff McNeely, we were able to get a lake patrol vessel, which is an open bow vessel, and we use it.
I rode on it Saturday. And let me tell you, y'all got some great professional folks out there who know the area, and I was just really impressed. Brooks Weathers was one of the deputies that I was riding with, and just the way he talked to people. I mean, you could tell he has a real servant's heart, and he wants to go out there and help people. He's not out there trying to, bust people's chops. He's trying to educate folks, get them to do things safe, do it the right way.
Major Fink and Jared down there have done with Jared Church, which is sort of overseas, decide how to build a boat stuff. I got a pitch out Saturday in Mooresville, and here's where we've got the enforcement, we've got respond to calls, we've got that. But I get a picture on my phone. It's about 4 kids riding in the boat, just want to ride just up the side of the and send them on the dock and wave.
Priceless.
Dude.
You know, Todd, and
about?
one thing that you just said, and I hope our listeners caught that, is the way we talk to people, and it's about education. And Sheriff, I know you have said this time and time and time again, especially when we talk about our lake patrol. We are there to enforce the law without question.
Yep.
But if you can educate and prevent a tragedy from occurring before
always
it
the
ever
best.
occurs, or give a life jacket, and we've got companies and businesses.
Education. We do Teen Academy last night. 53 kids in our
53
Teen Academy.
That's awesome.
But you know,
But for them being out there on the water, stopping those folks, giving a little education to prevent a tragedy, that's priceless. When you talk about gas for the boat or time and everything, I mean, when they've been there when boats have capsized, where we have saved people in the water.
Airplanes.
We've had airplanes crash down there. We have saved people. We're starting to rack up a good number of saves, and just think of the tragedies that have been averted
Right.
by having trained professionals with
all about
state-of-the-art
having
equipment on that lake.
And, you know, obviously this is a term that we was not even going to talk about this in this segment, but, you know, we're talking about Hurricane Helena. When it come through, you know, all the boat docks thing was talking to Todd. We're trying to work with Duke Power. Hopefully they'll give us a small section of land down there off of one of the access points, which we've been talking to them, to build sort of a boathouse to store our boats, a quick response time. Because right now they have to get in the car, go to the marina. That's fine. But we have no place, and actually have a place big enough to where, through the General Assembly, we're going to have a command bus that can run every bit of communications from the Highway Patrol to Mooresville Police, Fire, Rescue, satellite uplinks, or internet capability to be able to run a full-scale lake emergency if we have McGuire or something. And people don't understand, you know, it's not like getting a car and driving in the middle of the lake.
Right.
We have to have boats and assets. But if we're able to get Duke Power to work with that, work with us on that, because there's so many people that does that lake. And if we couldn't get the money from y'all, the General Assembly, because the way my math works, there's 100 counties here, and if we get that money, it's 1 penny for every dollar that Iredell County is responsible for, and this command bus is going to be over $1 million. But the capability and the service life of it's going to be 25 to 30 years.
And that's what we were talking about just a few minutes ago with planning ahead. You know, you can't wait till there's a disaster going on.
Absolutely.
To go out and try to get an ROV. You can't wait, you know, call up Charlotte, and that's what we used to have to do. You know, call up Charlotte, send somebody up here, and
that's
you know,
if they could get to us, if they weren't doing
if they
something.
weren't busy,
Right,
and
right.
if they could come, and if that person wasn't
And
out
they
on
did
vacation,
send a bill.
and then they're going to send you a bill. That's that pre-planning. So yeah,
There's a video this
it's
week.
great to work with the General Assembly to try and get those resources for those local folks back home who are doing that job that I know is so important.
And listen, here at Lake
that's-
Norman, I mean, it's the largest man-made lake in the state with probably 50,000 registered voters that access that access that lake, because we had that number. But you know, just this
I
weekend,
wouldn't hesitate to say it's even more. It
Well,
seemed like
this
it
was
was
back-
50,000
and
out there
this
on
is
Saturday.
Saturday night was crazy.
well, this is when we done our annual report. That's where I got the numbers from, and it's probably right before you retired. But you know, I seen Brooks and they may send a video. I seen a video this weekend. There was a deer, and night of the, I think it was 4th of July. A doggone deer was swimming, so they used a lake patrol boat to protect the deer. Somebody run over it, and they videotaped as it swam and got out. There's all sorts of things that they do, and you know, that's water rescues are bad. I mean,
They're a dynamic evolution when you start trying to get boats and people and machinery and robots and everything.
Got to have it in place.
You got to have it in place, but you got to practice and you got to know what you're doing.
Yep.
And it's only growing. You're representing Mooresville. You're representing the 95th. You understand.
Well, you think the 95th district used to come up, if you looked at a map of Iredell County, you know, the right-hand side
Looked
came
like
up
a yin-yang symbol.
almost all the way up to 70. And now it's pretty flat.
But
you know.
explain why the land mass is shrunk.
Right. So each district is based on population size. So each district in the North Carolina House, we represent between 90 and 95,000 people. And so now there's 95,000 people, you know, south of Cornelius Road, basically, you know, going out Shinville and south. That's how many people are now, you know, it used to be you went all the way up to Statesville to, you know,
To get those numbers.
to get the numbers, and now it's just more densely packed, and so that's what I'm representing is those
And I know
95,000 people.
And I know when we get calls about traffic and speeding and turnaround and speed bumps and potholes and dogs barking and everything, we get them. So I know you get them.
We get daily emails, and I'm going to tell you that Clay Keel is my legislative assistant in Raleigh, and she's responding. And you know, one of another one that we've talked offline about is DMV complaints. You know, people trying to get appointments with DMV. She's got a point of contact. She can try to help folks with that if you've been there and you've tried and you've waited and you've done it sort of the way that everybody does. And it still just ain't working for you.
And I'll tell you,
reach out to me and we can help you out with some of that.
Just to be clear, you mean the North Carolina House of Representatives doesn't operate the DMV?
No, that's a function of the executive branch of our government in North Carolina.
And listen, I've got one that turns 16 on the 24th, and not that he's probably impatient, but we have tried 5 different times, and I spoke to another guy I told you about, I won't call his name, but the thing is, you get up early, you get there, you can't schedule it, then you get there, then they just decide, we're not going to do it for the rest of the day, for no rhyme or reason.
Exactly.
And it's very frustrating.
And even the Republican auditor, Dave Bullock, did an assessment of the DMV, and even he said, hey, they need some help. They need people. And in the House version of the budget, I want to say it was either 65, 67, or 69. Don't hold me to the exact number, but it was somewhere in excess of 65 positions that we were going to allocate in the House version of the budget to help them with that problem.
See, that's me. And Addison, that's what she was doing. And we've got to take a break here in about 30 seconds. My thing's just like me. Do you just add people, or do you make better use of your assets you have?
Well, then there's also some tighten up on being able to do some more of the online applications, expanding that out to a wider audience. I think there's some efficiencies there. And if nothing else, Dave Bullock is going to find efficiencies for you.
Well, and I
be
do
able
know
to
you
help us
extended driver's
explore
license
those.
renewal 2 years, so
Yep.
before I forget that. So we're going to come back, we're going to take a break, and we'll be back in about 2.5 minutes, and we'll really get with what we're supposed to be talking about.
Maybe.
Maybe.
That's the high sign.
Well, I couldn't tell because he's behind the computer screen. So welcome back to the Good, the Bad, and Guilty, along with Chief Hamby and Todd Carver, Representative Todd Carver. Todd, one thing we sort of got talking about a little bit of lake troll and what y'all do, but I got two things. One is I know we sort of spoke about making the big money, but
Here it comes.
No, I want people to understand this because I sort of poked at it. What do you make for serving? Driving to Raleigh, just what's your salary?
So the salary is $13,000, I believe it's $951 a year. And so after I pay my health insurance, because our health insurance is
You could
for
have got
me and
that
my
had you not
wife.
tired.
for me and my, I should have stuck around a little bit longer. You're
Just gonna
exactly
say
right.
that.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that.
You're very welcome.
But it, I end up
Can't you
bringing
change that law?
I end up bringing home about
Some do.
roughly $150 every 2 weeks.
So that was
for
the reason
going
I
down
poked.
there.
That's the reason I poked fun at your first best financial decision. But people don't understand. And you're driving back and forth.
It's
I mean,
a huge commitment, and I have to have an apartment down there. I mean, you could stay in a hotel. I mean, there's a lot of folks who do a
How
hotel.
about a camper?
You could stay in a camper. There was one representative used to stay in a camper down there.
Former sheriff out of
Yes,
McDowell
I
County.
believe so. Dudley used to do that, and I don't like camping that much. I don't believe I want to do that. And so no, I've rented an apartment up there. That way it doesn't matter if we're there 3 days, 4 days, whatever.
Yeah.
It's not like I'm trying to wiggle out of it. I mean, I've got a place to stay. One of my seatmate, he asked me one time, he's like, they messed up my reservation at the Longleaf Pine Hotel, and so I might need a place to stay tonight. I was like, I got a couch. I was like, but we're not spooning, you you're on your own there, buddy. I said, but you're more than welcome
Okay,
to stay
moving
on the
along.
couch.
So we didn't ask who his mate was.
Well, that is kind of a segue. So, Todd.
Well, and I want to say, and before you do, and I just want to say, we appreciate. I know financially it's draining. I know you hear people talking about a lot of times. Hey, running for office, you're making big money. Absolutely nothing. You're down there pretty much, unless you're independently wealthy, it's hard to do
And that's
the
one
job.
of the main reasons I wanted to do it, Darren, to be honest with you, is, I'm not an independently wealthy guy. I mean, I'm a retired sheriff's deputy,
That's right.
So I wanted to go down there and be able to advocate for working class people. I mean, and that's what I feel like I've got to do down there.
But you got to have support, no matter what come elections.
You
I
do.
know you'll file this. You'll file
We'll
this
be in December,
same as I will.
and then if you have a primary or if I have a primary, it'll be in March.
Well,
And if people think I've done a good job, they'll send me back, and if they don't, then I'll find something else to do.
And not just because you're sitting here, but I have called down and spoke to your administrative assistant numerous times for various things. I will say your constituent services and the quick response with which they get back to us and give us an answer, even if it's we don't know but we're looking, is amazing. I've had opportunities to call other legislators in Raleigh and in Washington on behalf of the sheriff and the sheriff's office, and it's leave a voicemail or whatever. Your phone is always answered. Your emails are always returned.
And I appreciate
Literally
you.
that day.
I really appreciate you saying that, and give credit to you and to Sheriff Redmond both on that. Is Clay and I sat down the very first day I went down there, and
customer service is where
and
it's
I
at.
said, hey, I came up in the sheriff's office, and you didn't have to have an answer every time immediately, but you had to answer that phone call.
gave an answer.
You gave an answer, a response.
Hey, and I still tell you, there's not a problem. A deputy sheriff cannot find the resource for you. Solve it, find the resource, and that's the truth.
We both taught that same thing from somebody else.
That's
and
right.
I remember that.
And I got to say one thing we learned, and I'll give credits where credit. He's also is Speaker Pro Tem now. Is that the correct terminology for Mitchell Setzer?
Mitchell Setzer.
Anytime that we ever had any issue with Senate bills back years ago, you call Mitchell, you're going to get a call back.
Absolutely.
So
Right. If not an answer, because Mitchell is very, very responsive. And that's just one of the things that I've really tried to impress upon Clay is that we're going to respond to those emails same day if at all possible. And like I say, it may not be, hey, we got you an answer, but hey, we're working on it, and we're at least acknowledging you. And
That's the key word, sir. And I love the way you use that. We're going to acknowledge you exist. You're not just in a row. You're not just over here in queue for 3 or 4 days at a time. And like you said, Sheriff, and I think we've talked before, Todd. It's okay to say I don't know. At least let me know you got my question. You guys are going to look into it, because as smart as y'all are, you don't know everything.
Can't.
And you may have to call somebody who may not have that work ethic that you have that'll put you in queue for 3 or 4 days. But at least I know I've talked to Mitchell, I've talked to Todd or Jeff or
There's at least somebody
Senator
working on
Sawyer.
it.
Because
Somebody's
you are
working
their
on
only
it.
voice. You are the House rep for Mooresville, and you're their voice
Yep.
in legislation and everything.
And I take that seriously. I really do. So, I'm enjoying that part of it. We had some really good, success with a few bills this term.
Absolutely. That's what I want to get into. House Bill 50 for us was very important.
House Bill
Yes.
50, I wish would have been around when I was there.
I'm sure you do. I tried
because-
to tell you.
House Bill 50
explain
wasn't
it.
there
And I know
when I was there.
it's going to really help. We've been pushing on that since I was third vice.
So
That's
the
one-
easiest way to explain it is to use myself as an example.
Absolutely.
So with my military time, I had my 30 years of service in the retirement system. I was 48 years old. So if I retired at age 48 or at age 58, I was only going to draw my supplement, which is I guess
it's
one of the legs in a three-legged stool of your retirement as a law enforcement officer. I was only going to draw that supplement until I turned age 62.
Right.
No matter whether I retired at 48, 58. It was only going to last till I turned 62. House Bill 50 will allow you to move that on out. So say I kept working until I was 53. Well, now instead of my supplement ending at age 62, it would end at 67.
And Bill and I both are examples. I would have been forced out in the way it was originally wrote. 5 years, you had to go back. And when we talk about supplement, it's a small percentage of something that the North Carolina General Assembly created years and years ago. It's something as a law enforcement officer you get. And it's basically to bridge you from Social Security to Medicare is the way I understand it.
Right.
But it forces, you go back to defund the police when it forced middle management out across the country. But with us, Bill's experience and our new people, my experience, there's several. Now they're not up to where they say, I've got to retire at 30 years no matter what, or I'm going to lose my supplement because it only goes through 62.
Yeah, I would have literally been losing, it's a finite number of months
I've lost
that I was going to get.
had this law not changed.
Yeah, and so this is a good thing. It will allow you to retain some of that experience that you need to keep in the law enforcement agencies, not just at Iredell County Sheriff's Office, but at sheriff's offices and police departments all across the state of
Highway
North
Patrol,
Carolina.
SBI, everywhere.
Yes. So it's a good thing, and then it actually has a positive financial note. I mean, it actually is a cost savings for the agencies, just the way that it works out. So it's a good thing, and I'm really glad to have had the opportunity to vote for it. It was, I believe, it was a unanimous.
Will you, Reese Pirtle, Carson Smith, Charlie Miller, those? I mean, I remember when we first started this, and it started here. We was one of the ones that Carson come up with. We pushed it, and finally y'all got it through. And there's been a lot. And think of the recruits that don't even understand a separation, but now it's a recruiting tool for us.
Let me just say one thing for our listeners out there. This was so good, and so many people,
Absolutely. I know what you're
and
gonna
so
say.
many people understood it needed to be done. It passed unanimously in the House of Representatives last year and this year. And this year it passed unanimously in the Senate. Sheriff Campbell and I and several
And
other
this year
sheriffs.
again in the House.
Yeah, this year as well. But it passed unanimously in the Senate. So, ladies and gentlemen, ask yourselves, and Todd, maybe you can answer this question. How
Not
many
that y'all
times,
agree on
how
everything
many
down the road.
times does a piece of legislation pass unanimously by both parties in the House?
In both chambers.
In both chambers.
And in the Senate. So
And
it must have
get a
been,
Democrat governor to sign it.
it must have been something pretty good. And thank
At
you
8
all for
o'clock,
that.
it passed on Tuesday. I believe we were down there. And by 8 o'clock Friday morning, because I was invited down, I couldn't go. 8 o'clock Friday morning, the governor will sign it.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing for the people. It's a good thing for the officers.
All right, we're going to, Todd, but listen, I promise we're going to rest show in this next 15 minutes. But
no problem.
We'll be back in about two and a half minutes, and send us a Facebook comment if anything.
folks. Welcome back to The Good, the Bad, and the Guilty with Sheriff Darren Campbell and Chief Bill Hamby, myself, Todd Carver, representative of the 95th House District down in Mooresville.
The first person to ever guest ever got to bring us back.
That's it.
well,
I'm done. I'm leaving now.
You're fired.
I'm out of a job. I'm gone.
I have radio experience because of the sheriff's office. So, no, we're glad to have
And
y'all.
school board, don't forget that.
And the school board, that is true. How about that one? We're glad to have you with us here today, and we were talking about a couple of bills.
Here, I'm gonna
And
give you
Todd,
my
before,
cheat
and
sheet.
while he's hand, I want to make sure you don't cut yourself no slack, because you've been a true advocate for educators, teachers, and the education system. I know you don't usually see that go along a lot with, I guess, certain political parties a lot, but you've been a big advocate for helping teachers and our school system.
I think a career in the criminal justice system had taught me that if you don't pay for it on the front end with a good education, you're going to incarcerate that person eventually, and you're going to pay for it on the back end.
You heard what we said, like that when you was here, and you were very much part of Teen Academy. I can even tell you one thing: these kids, they're going to grow up to be good, productive citizens or future offenders.
Yep.
It's
And
one or two.
we want them to be productive, tax-paying folks out there. So, I am an advocate for education, and I don't think that puts me at odds with, I think Republicans are education supporters. I think sometimes we get a reputation that we're not education
And maybe
supporters.
that's what I meant.
Yeah. But
And also being able to choose where that education comes from.
sure. And do what's best for you and your family.
That's
I mean,
correct.
that's the things I do support that. But I've been a proponent of education and honored to have served on the school board. I was glad to do it. A couple of the bills that I had centered around education. House Bill 106 was one that I was really trying to get done to bring back retired teachers in special needs areas, math, science, special education. Unfortunately, that one got stuck in K-12 committee and didn't never get a whole
And
lot
people
of,
don't understand. Basically, it gets stuck in the committee, it just dies there.
Yeah, it just dies there. So wasn't able to get a whole lot of traction for that one. One of the ones that I was probably my biggest accomplishment was getting House Bill 223, which was allowing Mooresville to do a conveyance of property. They've got a group that wants to contribute some money to doing affordable housing for first responders and veterans, disabled veterans. And the town's got some land, some infield lots. Nobody's going to really be interested in building or developing on. Town's going to put up the land. The benefactor's going to come in and build the houses, and we're going to be able to get that done. I was able to get that one through.
It'll be open to any first responders that apply. It's an application process.
Absolutely. Yeah, there'll be an application process, and the town will be talking more about that as that thing unfolds. If you look up House Bill 223, it's going to look like nothing happened to it. It ended up in House Bill 30 something, maybe 306. It went to like 6 different bills before it got tucked into a
And that's what I'm going to say. To translate
provisions.
that, some good things may not be the whole bill. So what they'll do is take the good parts and put it into a bill that most likely is going to be successful.
Well, sometimes they'll take these, they call them various local provisions, and that was ended up being the title. I think it was various local provisions number 3. And my House Bill 223 got cut and paste basically word for word into another bill that, there was one, hey, we're doing this for Swain County. We're doing this for, such and such, Transylvania, and you just put all these little local bills together. And then once they pass the House and the Senate, they don't even require a governor's signature if they're truly a local bill.
Local government.
Yeah. If they affect less than 15 counties.
10 or 50, yeah. 15
counties is the threshold on that. So I was able to get that one done. We were able to get a lot of people don't realize that the town of Davidson is part of that, is in Iredell County. Down there off of Bridges Farm, they got a community down there, and so they had come to me and asked for some help getting their charter redone. Their charter had not been redone since the 90s. It still required them to have a cotton wear and a mayor's tribunal every so often, and so we were able to get that updated and get some get some modern language in there with that, so they don't have to have a cotton wear anymore.
So,
you've been
the
kind of-
cotton wear is gone.
You've been kind of busy, I reckon.
Kind of a little bit busy.
Well, I will say this: every time I've called you, you've answered, and I don't call all the time.
But when you do, I try to answer it. You're a
Well, I
VIP
appreciate it.
customer. You know.
Now, one thing it'll affect you, and it's been all over the news, and I've seen it, and you may not, and obviously I didn't tell you because I just thought about it, is the Lake Norman Marine Commission. Because from you working on Lake Patrol and to see the benefits, and I think there's some confusions on some of the news saying, well, if the commissioner signed this resolution, listen, laws. Commissioners can't force us what to enforce and what not to and who to give mutual aid to.
Right.
So
Correct.
we're going to operate it same as it's always been.
And there is a new Marine Commission charter.
And tell us what the purpose of the Marine Commission.
So the Marine Commission, serves really it does a lot of different things that people sort of behind the scenes that a lot of people just don't ever see. They remove navigational obstructions. They take care of the channel markers. They make sure the lights are working on
we
them.
control a lot of that stuff that causes problems.
Yeah,
the help.
a lot of the algae blooms and stuff like that. They get involved in just trying to help mitigate some of that stuff. And so the new Marine Commission charter will say that, hey, as long as there are at least 3 of the 4 counties. The old charter said if any one county withdrew, and then Lincoln County withdrew. So now the new charter will say, hey, as long as there's at least 3, and it has a new process, for appointing board members. I think there's going to be 9 board members, something like that. So anyway, that's going to be back up and running as soon as the counties get around to adopting that.
I think we've been up, and there's a question a lot on the news always the enforcement side of it. A lot of people's worried about, well, these people from Charlotte's going to come up here, write us a bunch of tickets, and then go back because the way the law is written on waterways are a little different.
Yeah.
But you did take that out to include sheriff's office because you know this, but there's 4 counties basically that connects to Lake Norman. It's 500, I can't remember how many miles.
520 miles of shoreline.
Okay, and we've got 278 of shoreline, so we have over half of it.
Right.
And there's a provision in there that I seen that was to call for a new magistrate in Mecklenburg. Yeah. We're the biggest county, and that was one thing I said. That's a waste of taxpayer money.
That was an interesting. I was like, where did this come from?
But it got removed,
and it got removed because I guess Huntersville's been wanting a magistrate. In the north
that's
end
not
of
the way to do it.
Yeah, don't do it that way. If you want Huntersville to have a magistrate, let's put in a thing in AOC's update that we do a division update for a lot of different
That's the way to do it.
parts
Some
of the state
transparency
annually.
in government.
Would be the ideal way to go.
And that's what I say. I give you credit. The reason I brought that up because when we talked about it, that's absolutely sort of what do you call that pork that you add in the way. Now this is me, not Todd. Representing
Whole lot of bacon.
But you're adding that in because they want it, but it's in a bill that really don't play. So we didn't need that. And obviously I was vocal
And that
about
happens
it.
a lot. That happens a whole lot down there. And that's one of the things I was cautioned on early is co-sponsoring bills. So say Representative Campbell puts in a bill, and I'm like, hey, I like that. That's a good idea. And so I sign on as a co-sponsor. And so we marshal that bill all the way through the House of Representatives. It gets voted 115 to nothing. We send it over to the Senate, and there's a process that they use and we use, and pretty much everybody down there agrees it's not the best thing to do, but it's called gut and cut. And they'll basically
Self-explanatory.
They'll take every word out of Darren's bill, and it comes back still showing Darren as the sponsor of it, but it's legalizing marijuana.
Oh, wow.
And everybody's like, dang, Darren, why in the world did you sign that? And, put that forward. And he didn't.
Right.
The bill went to the Senate. It became, and it could happen exactly the same way. Vicky could do a bill over on the Senate side. It's a great idea. It's a great policy. And then it comes to the House, and somebody over here says, hey, we're going to gut and cut that. And it comes back as a, predatory towing bill or something.
It's just like this House Bill 50. Originally, it was 310. It was through in a marijuana bill to try to make the marijuana, because there's good parts to make the other bill successful. Because I know, and I won't speak of the speaker's name, but either way, on the Senate, I was going to say, protecting. But called me and said, hey, we're going to get this done this year. You're chairman. Hey, I appreciate that. And said,
that's how the shrimp gate.
I don't know what happened to it the last 3 or 4 years.
What in the world?
That's how the shrimp gate thing happened. I mean, that originally that bill was to have a flounder and a red snapper season, for folks down at the coast. I mean, they hadn't had a flounder season because the numbers had gotten low, And so there was a lot of people wanted to say, hey, let's have a flounder season. Let's have a flounder season. So we sent a bill over from the House. I don't want to say it was unanimous, but it was very popular.
Yeah.
I didn't hear anybody crowing about it, saying it was a bad idea. It goes over there, it comes back, and now it's got this, no shrimp trawling in any of the intercoastal waterways, and it's going to put 300 companies out of business, and all their employees are going to be,
Well, I knew when I started seeing on the news, they'd done a special on how much Japanese shrimp that we sell in Charleston, and it's labeled as made. I said, there's something up. And even though Charleston's not even this state, but I could figure out what it was.
Let me tell you, those folks mobilized like nothing.
Apparently,
I've ever
traffic
seen.
was snarled in Raleigh.
They were in reefer trucks, refrigerated trucks, circling the building down there, blowing the horns for 2 days. They really made their presence felt.
It's good.
And the will of the people, was able to get parked in a committee at the House of Representatives when the Republican caucus decided, hey, we're not advancing this bill, and so it got parked.
Well, y'all have got a good, obviously I'd say Vicky Sawyer does us a great job.
Let me tell you something. Vicky's who I want to be like when I grow up. I tell people all the time.
I guess you're going to send her a copy of this video and let her hear that. But y'all also, listen.
I've said it to her face.
We got the speaker pro tem here, Destin Hall, up out of Caldwell County. Is a great speaker. Yep. So we have not even got the press releases. You have to look at Facebook to see the press release. Bill, it's been a great show.
We are working,
Todd,
folks.
thank
I
you.
promise. We're locking folks up. Go to our Facebook page so you can see all the great things we're doing. But it was good to have
leave us some
Representative Carver
comments,
with us
Todd,
today.
you're going to.
Todd.Carver.
No, I meant on
at
Facebook. And you can look at it. Okay, good.
.gov.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We go. Good show, Todd.
Hey, I appreciate you. Anytime.